What up, sports fans? Waxon Wednesday, Jake Waxman, Tom Lavalette, two guys talk sports. Let's rock and roll. Alright, I'm going to start with some Purdue basketball talk because it's October and basketball starts this month. And that includes college basketball if we're focusing on exhibition. So, something to keep in mind Purdue, their first exhibition game will be against Kentucky on the 27th. They'll be traveling to Kentucky to play, I believe, a charity exhibition game once more. But it'll be a good show for what this Purdue team has what Purdue has on the table heading into this new season. So, a lot of questions. So this is a team that has championship aspirations. Don't get me wrong. The roster itself screams championship aspirations, but will it all come together? That's remains to be seen. I mean, you got over 85% of your scoring returning. I mean, you got Braden Smith coming back along with Fletcher Lawyer and Trey Kaufman-Run. So that's your big three right there if you're Purdue. And then you got other guys returning, like you got C.J. Cox and Jakari Harris entering their sophomore years. Both those two guys could take a really big leap. You just never know. And also you got some. Now you lost guys like Miles Colvin and Cam Heide to the transfer portal, but you added some firepower from the portal. I mean, you got a big man. I mean, Caleb Furst, graduated last season, so he's gone. And going in his place is a guy by the name of Oscar Clough, who probably will be one of the starters. And when he was at South Dakota State, that man balled out. So a lot of expectations on Oscar Clough. And you know what? His passing's really good too. But if he can, be a good game manager in the paint and move the ball around and help Braden Smith out a lot, that's going to go a long ways. He probably won't score the same amount of points per game as he did at South Dakota, but this is Big Ten basketball we're talking about. So, you got that. So, the starting lineup probably is going to look like this. You got Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer starting, then Trey Kaufman-Run, and Oscar Clough, I think, is going to start too. Question is, who's going to be the fifth guy? Is it going to be a forward or a guard? This could be one of those seasons where Painter starts three guards, and would not surprise me. It could be either Jakari Harris or C.J. Cox. You just never know who it's going to be. It could be either one of those two guys, but I don't expect the roster or the starting lineup to change a whole lot. And a couple other things to keep in mind, The other guy that Purdue got in the portal was a guy by the name of Liam Murphy. He's originally from Staten Island. He played for North Florida. Where does he factor into all this? That's one thing I wonder. And how many minutes will he get? Because he'll probably be a senior, and it's probably going for his there's no question he's going for his master's degree. It's just a matter of how many minutes he'll get. And I mentioned Oscar Clough, who by the way is from Florida. Not Florida, but he's originally from Sunshine Coast, Australia. So Thunder from down under here, and originally played for South Dakota State, as I mentioned. And then I mentioned some of the guys that, where does Jack Benner factor into all this? He redshirted last year. I wouldn't be surprised if he has more of an impact. And then you got guys like Daniel Jacobson. Now, Jacobson would have probably had I like to think would have had a major impact last year had he not gotten injured and had to medically redshirt. But he'll be back this year. He'll be much more developed and refined, and I think that can help Purdue a lot. And when it comes to the center, then you got Omer Mayer, the man from Israel. This is going to be an interesting one. This guy, I've heard, brings a lot to the table. How many minutes will he get? And will he work his way up to the starting role if he does indeed just break out onto the scene? And then interestingly enough, there's this guy called Anthony West Jr. who is looking really, really strong. A lot of us had him pegged as probably a redshirt or a guy who's probably got a redshirt, but he's looking really, really good in practice. So I guess it's up to West Jr. himself in terms of whether or not he'll redshirt. But if this guy's as good as he says, why redshirt him? Turn him loose right away if he makes an impact. Roster-wise, Purdue is still trying to figure things out, but this is a very good problem to have if you're Purdue basketball because that means your depth. Because this Purdue team, if these guys can play really well, no matter how many minutes they've got, then this Purdue team will be the deepest that Matt Painter's ever had, without question. Now, national championship, we'll see, of course. This is a team that can make a deep run in the tournament because they bring a lot of experience back, and they brought also a lot. They've also got added a lot of firepower through the portal, and of course overseas from Israel, as I mentioned. Because I've heard Ramirez, that guy can shoot. And then Anthony Russ Jr. He's got a lot of athleticism and a lot of speed. Whew, a lot to sort out heading into that first exhibition game. But hey, Purdue, good problem to have if you're Purdue basketball. You're just trying to figure out starting roster, and probably won't be figured out before the exhibition game, and that's okay. In that game, it wouldn't surprise me to see Matt Painter play with all sorts of different lineups to see who's ready and who's going to get the starting minutes and who's going to get good backup minutes. You just never know right now. And then I also mentioned another guy I forgot to mention, Raleigh Burgess. Where does he factor into all this? And that's a guy who could be an odd man out at Purdue, meaning that he may not get a whole lot of minutes, but we'll see. But I'm really excited about Purdue basketball this season. Not gonna lie, excited. Just right now, thinking of all the possibilities of all the different lineups that Purdue could have. Just trying to put all the math together, but a lot to be excited when it comes to Purdue basketball. But right now, the focus for Purdue basketball, figuring out the lineups. How's it going to look heading into your first exhibition game? And how's it going to look heading into your first regular season game? Just so much to think about. No question. And then, shifting gears now, basketball's not the only sport that's back. Hockey's back too. The Blackhawks, they played last night. They played the defending Cup champions in the Florida Panthers. They played them in Sunshine, Florida, and I was encouraged by what I saw with the Blackhawks. I thought that they contended, or they competed against a very stacked Florida team that's probably favored to get a three-peat, for crying in a butt. But they kept Florida honest. They fought hard all game, just came up short in the end, ended up losing 3-2. But a lot of encouraging things I saw. It looks like Connor Bedard looks like he's been working hard on the offseason. He looked faster. He was taking more shots. He was attacking the net more. That was really encouraging to see. And Frank Nazar, I like what that I see from this guy. He is going to be a really good hockey player for the Blackhawks. I think that he had the first goal of the NHL season and the first for the Blackhawks, of course. A lot of promise there. And other guys looking really good there as well. Well, Ryan Donato doing his thing, trying to do the best he can, and Teuvo Teravainen scoring the second goal for the Blackhawks. So, but what I like best about what I saw when it comes to the Blackhawks is they fought hard all the way to the end and just fell short. That was really a good effort that they put forth. And just need to take more shots on net, all right? Don't look for the perfect shot. Put pucks to the net. You just never know what's going to happen. That is one thing I will say the Blackhawks need to do to improve on. Putting more pucks on the net. Simple as that. And defense might still need a little bit of work. Artem Lezhinov, a lot of promise with him, but he's got to stay out of the penalty box. But overall, I'm really encouraged by what I see with the Blackhawks. The fact that we went into Florida and went toe-to-toe with the defending Cup champions, that says a lot. That's the kind of start that the Blackhawks needed for this upcoming season. It's going to be probably another long season, another rebuild, but player development is going to be key. And in terms of that category, I like to think the Blackhawks are off to a pretty good start. Let's hope they can keep it up. On to the next one. And then, finally, good Lord, for crying in a bucket. This next subject, why are we even talking about this? Why does something like this continue to happen in the NFL? First, it was Adonai Mitchell, and now this week, Amari DiMercado. What do those two guys have in common? Both of them fumbled the ball before scoring a touchdown. They were on their way to scoring a touchdown until they decided, I'm going to fumble the ball before I touch down in the end zone. Really do not understand why this continues to happen. And you know what? Both Mitchell and DiMercado both their fumbles have something in common. Both of those fumbles made a difference in made the difference in the outcome. Both of those fumbles costed their teams the wins. The Colts may still be very well undefeated right now if Mitchell didn't fumble the ball last week. And now, this past Sunday, the Cardinals' playoff hopes may have just gone out the window. Or at least so let me pronounce his name. Amari DiMercato may have just fumbled the Cardinals' playoff hopes right out of the back of the end zone. And by the way, Tennessee won that game by just one stinking point. 1 point. So by 1 point, the Tennessee Titans earned their first win of the season. All because, and in large part because they built momentum off of that fumble into the back of the end zone, which led to a Titans touchback, and that flipped the whole momentum. That's twice this season that this has happened. It only happened once last season with Jonathan Taylor, of course. And this season, twice. That just does not happen. This is stupid. This isn't high school football, nor you don't even see this happen in college football at all. Players in college football know better than to fumble the ball before they cross the plane. But in the NFL, you got some guys that decide to showboat before they even reach the end zone. Like, oh, hey, let me put the ball down. I'm sure I've scored already. Newsflash, no, you haven't. Until both feet are in the end zone and the ball's in the end zone, you haven't scored yet. You need to keep a hold of that foot. Why is it so difficult to just hold on to the ball until you know for sure you've crossed the plane, and then look at the referee, and once he gives you the signal, now you can let go of the ball. Or spike the football in the end zone afterwards if you want to do that. But why is it so hard for some players to just hold on to the football? This is absolute nonsense. It's making the NFL product look extremely stupid. And I do mean stupid. It's dumb. Like, everybody knows you got to get into the end zone to score. And yes, of course, the ball at the very least has to touch the plane, break the plane. But you know what? That doesn't mean you should fumble the ball, even if the football's already broken the plane, for crying in the bucket. And there is some talk that the fumble by DiMercato, on that fumble, the ball already had actually crossed the plane, and it should have been counted as a touchdown. So there's talk about that. But regardless of what the correct call was, no one should. It doesn't. You know what? That doesn't matter. Don't fumble the ball. Don't fumble the ball before you cross into the end zone, and then you wouldn't have a controversial call like that. Regardless of what the outcome is, just the ball carrier needs to get into the end zone first. What's so hard? You know, the great Deshaun Jackson had something like that happen, and you know what? And there's others now that are just following this. Oh my goodness. And here's the big problem. Here's an even bigger problem with this. And call me conspiracy theorist, if you will. Not only does this make the NFL product look bad, a fumble like that happening twice in one season, like someone fumbling the ball before the end zone, happening twice in one season, this makes the NFL look scripted or rigged, however you want. Or, you know what? It makes it look like that the odds makers in Vegas are calling the shots. Like, oh, someone made a bet on DiMercato having a bad game. Gotta make sure he fumbles away or something. Yeah, stuff like that. It makes it look like... Sports fans, I would never recommend betting on any sports. I don't bet, by the way, on sports. I don't like to do it because too much can happen. And sorry to be the party pooper here, but I do not recommend betting on sports because you got stuff like that can happen. And it could... And whoever had... And the person that had DiMercato in my league lost a whole lot of points. Thankfully, she did not lose her matchup, but she lost a whole lot of points on that fumble because you lose the 7 points plus you lose -2 for a fumble lost. So it affects fantasy football. But you know what? This just... When you see a fumble like that happen twice within the last 2 weeks, that brings out the conspiracy theorists. Like, people are going to be like, oh, the NFL is rigged again. Or, oh, look at this. Vegas is calling the shots on the outcome of every game. Or, people who made bets, or the bets makers, or the betting odds, or, the overs and unders. Like, the bets have to line up a certain way, however you want to say it, for lack of better words. So, again, and do I believe the NFL is scripted? Yeah, honestly, I do believe the NFL is scripted. And this does not help. Like, fumbles like this should not happen at all in an NFL season, especially self-inflicted wound plays like this. And now, one final note I just would like to say is, if I was an NFL coach and someone on my team did that, and fumbled the ball before a scoring play, and it cost us the game, or cost us the game or not, that person is sitting next week. At the very least, there would be a penalty. I would be penalizing that player who did such a stupid action. I would either fine him. I'm still kind of deciding between that, but I would either give him a fine for what they did, or, you know what? It depends on how they would react after the play, but the guy who chewed out the Arizona Cardinals running back, you know what? The coach was right to chew out DeMarcado for his fumble, because that's stuff that shouldn't happen. So I would either fine the player or sit him out the next game, because that's how you teach a lesson. Like, do not be stupid with the football, and do not cost us the game. Be smart with it. It's not hard. It's not rocket science. You just need get yourself in the end. If you got the football and you're the ball carrier or the wide receiver who has the football, get your butt in the end zone all the way. Look around, make sure the referee has signaled touchdown. Then you can showboat. Then you can let go of the ball, or even shoot. Yeah, get the ball back to the referee like Barry Sanders did. Case in point, crap like this should not be happening. And you know what? Those two guys, both the Donai Mitchell and Amari DiMarcado, they did this to themselves. They made this mistake. It's a simple mistake not to make, and they did this. Showboated way too much, or could go into the conspiracies all you want. I won't go much farther into that before I get people to start to think I'm really crazy, which I'm a little crazy. I'm crazy. I'll admit that. But bottom line is, regardless of what you believe and regardless of reasoning, fumbles like the stupid fumbles before the goal line should never happen in the NFL. It doesn't happen in high school. It most certainly doesn't happen in college football. It should not be happening in the NFL. Ball carriers need to be smarter than this, and there needs to be discipline. I heard that the Colts actually benched Adonai Mitchell for his actions, which they should have. Like, either fine him or bench him, depending on how they handle the situation going forward. But there needs to be punishments handed out for people who showboat in the worst possible ways. And that's where I leave this subject. All right, on to this day in sports history. And on this day, the 8th of October, 1887, the Phillies set a club record with a 16th consecutive victory. And how about this? And on this day, the 8th of October, 1908, the Chicago Cubs beat the New York Giants 4-2 in a playoff to win the NL pennant. Back in those days, we didn't have playoffs. We just had a regular season, and the team on both the American League and the National League who had the best record would end up winning their league's pennant and go into the World Series. That's how it worked in those days. All right, sports fans, that's all I got for this week's Waxon Wednesday. I hope you've enjoyed it. And me and Tyler are grateful for the support once again. And follow us on Two Guys Talk Sports and other things on YouTube for more videos like this. And follow us on Two Guys Talk Sports on Facebook. And with that being said, that's all for this week's Waxon Wednesday. I'll see you guys on Friday for Friday Roundtable with my man Tyler Lavalette. This is Jake Waxman from Two Guys Talk Sports. Wish you all a good night.